morning, everybody, and welcome to TLC Live as every Wednesday. Today, my friend Bobby is filling in from Orlando Sanchez that he is in Montana, but he's going to be with us also in the show.
Yeah, he's coming in. He can't get too far away,
I know
right?
he
Yeah.
can now. He can
Right,
now. Well, the
exactly.
good thing the technology allows to connect with him virtually. Today, I want to start with something that it was. It got me not able to sleep, and not only me, but the whole country and the whole world. The mass shooting, school shooting in Uvalde. 19 kids and two teachers got killed yesterday. Um, exactly the day that we were celebrating elections,
Right,
that we
right.
were the runoff elections yesterday at 11 something in the morning. 18 years old, got to elementary school with two AR-15 rifles and start just
Yes.
killing kids.
Yeah, it was tragic, and like you said, I mean, this was something that took me completely by surprise. I was involved in the elections and contacting people and doing all of these things, and then it really hits close to home. You realize, as wrapped up as you are in something that you think is important, which is elections, and it is important. Now you have children that will never see the next day. 19 of them, and it is just so tragic. We have this culture of just violence that we need to address. We have to address that, and too many times the left. I don't mean to make it political, but the left blames the firearm. This guy holed up in his classroom could have used anything and had this tragedy. The thing is what is going on in his head, and what are we going to do about this violence that it just seems like it's growing and growing and growing.
I don't know what is going on. I don't understand. I'm coming from a very violent country, Colombia, and well, you never heard those things in that country. You
Right.
never heard those things in nowhere else. It happened in United States, and this is the second deadliest mass shooting at school after Sandy Hooks in 2012. It's been 10 years after that. In that 2012, it was 20 kids, 6 adults. This time is 19 kids,
Right.
2 adults, and the shooter also, well, she's in surgery. The grandmother shoot the grandmother
Exactly. Right.
before doing this.
Right. So something is crazy going on, but I believe it was 1990 when they enacted the federal law that created these gun-free zones. And I fail to see the logic where someone who is disturbed or angry or evil is going to say, well, oh no, that's a gun-free zone. I guess I'll go where the guns are and cause my havoc. No, they're going to go to a place where they know people are defenseless. Now, apparently this guy encountered some law enforcement first. So we need to look at that and see what failed, where can we increase security, because above all, we need to protect the children. We need to make sure that these places are environments to learn and not to be fearful that something bad is going to happen. We need to protect either the teachers or have security in place that can actually do the job so don't have to go through this again.
Well, many things need to be done for sure. No more moments of silence,
Right.
because that's enough is enough. And I want to bring Orlando Sanchez from Montana, and I wanna hear your thoughts on this, Orlando, because this is a tragedy that touched all the American people. The whole world are on this. And I'm a mother of twins. They're 17 years old. I came home last night, and I was hugging them, and they didn't even understand why. I was like, I always hug them. And this morning, it got me sick. I couldn't sleep, and I still have a stomach ache. This is horrible.
Well, as Bobby said, you have 19 babies that will never go to graduation, will never go to the prom, will never, be able to marry and have their own children. And I'm telling you, this hits very close to home because, as many of you know, I'm a property owner in the county next to Uvalde. I spent a lot of time in Uvalde, Texas. I have a lot of friends in Uvalde. And it's not an urban area. It's a very rural community, mostly agricultural, mostly Hispanic, very tranquil, very pastoral, and so you don't have those sort of tensions that you see in urban areas. And so I know everybody wants to, there's going to be different spins to this. There's going to be the spin from the public policy perspective. Oh, it's the guns, it's the assault weapons. And I was very proud of Andrea calling it a rifle, because that's what it is. Right. I mean, an AR-15 is no different than a 30-06, but I don't want to get into that, the politics of it. I don't think politics fixes this problem, Andrea and Bobby, and both of you can comment on this. Mm-hmm. I think it's more of an indication of a sick society. I'm not a psychologist. I think that there are probably commonalities among these incidences. For example, I think they're mostly male. They're mostly, late teens, early 20s. One could say that a psychologist could say they're isolated. They may be bullied. As a friend of mine commented, maybe raised by single parents, usually moms. So there may be some patterns here. And as Bobby said, I don't care what legislation you pass, or I don't care if you blame guns, this isn't going to stop. As we say in Texas, the horses have left the barn. Even if you outlaw guns, there's still there's probably 200 guns per American out there. So that's not going to help. I mean, it's a matter of a sick society, and in my opinion, and I'm gonna opine. This is a personal opinion, but I don't think social media helps. I don't think having these kids on social media where they see others posting beautiful pictures, like, people think that I have a storied life, that I travel in the mountains and all I do is go fishing. People don't realize that, I have daily struggles like everybody. Mm-hmm. I have air conditioners that fail, cars that fail. I have tragedies in my family. We all have a normal life. But social media only depicts people living this beautiful, California West Coast life. That's not true, but it puts young kids that are maybe bullied, that may be sad, that may be depressed in a situation that, hey, everybody else has a beautiful life. I'm the only guy stuck here. And this is the outcome. I don't know, but
you're absolutely right. I think social media, it's not helping. Mm-hmm. The media in general is not helping. Video games, technology is not helping, and also families falling apart. And the way that they've been raising the kids are like, families are not talking, they're not interacting. You see families at restaurants and everybody's on their phone, right. And we see parents that just handle an iPad or a phone to their little kids because that's the best babysitter mm-hmm. that they can have. Like, don't bother me. And I mean, we need to. I don't know if this problem it can be fixable. I don't know how long it's gonna take. But I am sick seeing this.
No, I mean,
being a mom and seeing my kids and going to school, a place that they should be safe, and it's not.
Yeah, and absolutely.
Yeah, government's not going to fix it. I'm I don't want to jump in all over the show here today, but guns existed way before. I mean, in the 50s, we had millions of guns in this country. We had shotguns and we had rifles, and we had machine guns. Hell, by legislation, machine guns weren't outlawed until recently. So it's not guns. It's a sick society. And I was kidding a moment ago, telling a friend of mine that if we really want to try to make an effort, we really ought to not allow children on social media until they're 21. We don't let them buy booze until they're 21. We don't let them, vote until they're 21. I think some young people should not have access to social media where they can get either bullied or where there's interactions that are not supervised by an adult. I know that's crazy, but, we ought to look into that.
Yeah, and the things you're saying, Orlando, are right on about the culture, because this is what this comes down to, right? Is that we have a culture now that doesn't value life. And that manifests itself in a lot of different ways. You talk about social media. Look at these videos that go viral of some thugs. They'll walk up to some elderly man or woman, 70, 80 years old, older, and just punch him right in the face. Just knock him out. The person is laying there. They laugh about it, exactly. And then they post it online. It's not even just the act of doing it. It's knowing that they're now going to post that and share that with the world. And you see, so if you don't value the dignity, right, the human dignity of this elderly person that's there, that goes into these kids too. I mean, they don't value life at all, so they're just going to go and take it in the hopes that, hey, maybe there's action, they'll be talked about on the news. Maybe someone will post about it and I will be famous. And that's got to change.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, it's like, everybody analyzes serial killers. One of the trademarks of serial killers is the inability to empathize and to
Hmm.
have those emotional connections. Other human beings, they make objects of their targets, especially the men that go after women. I mean, that's again, we know these serial killers are sick. I mean, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean in a mental health way.
yeah.
And a larger perspective, Bobby, I think society's become sick. I mean, it's like
Hmm.
Andrea
Totally.
said, you see it all the time. People hand their cell phones over to kids 15, 16 years old at a restaurant so they don't have to talk to them.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And what's interesting is that they call this whole empire, right? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, social media. And yet it's exactly the opposite. It
Yeah.
is not
It's
social.
not
You are
social.
separating yourselves from society into a room, and it's just funny how much braver and profane and just just nasty these people become when they're in this little
Oh yeah.
hidden area.
Very,
And
very strong people
exactly
come
right.
in social media, and
Yeah,
they're
and
the
then they think
weakest people.
they can do stuff like this. So it
Yeah.
is really anti-social media, and we're paying the price.
It's so sad. Well, we can talk all day about this. But this happened, this horrific incident happened in the middle of the runoff yesterday, Tuesday, May 24th. So let's move to the results. We have victories and we have some no victories.
That's right.
So I want also Orlando comment on that. You're more knowledgeable about the elections, of course. But I've been working very close to one of the candidates for the Republican nomination for Harris County Judge. Unfortunately, Vidal Martinez didn't win. I mean, I think, and I was telling him yesterday, it's not that you didn't win. I think the loss is for the county because he is a very experienced person. He knows the county, he knows the community, and he has all the credentials. So I think it's more the loss of us as the Harris County citizens than his loss. Also, we have Mano de Ayala that he was running for state representative in District 133. He won for 51%, and
Close one.
very close. That was very close. And we had George P. Bush that he was running for Attorney General, and he lost. These are the three candidates that we were supporting, but Orlando can talk more about that.
Well, and so can Bobby as chairman of the Republican Party of Fort Bend County. But I think at the end of the day, what this shows is that in runoffs in our country, in primaries, you tend to get the candidates that please the extremes of the party. Uh, so I knew that those that were going to come vote in a runoff in a Republican primary were going to be sort of the hardcore right. So, and to the hardcore right, Paxton is the thing. And so George P. Bush, our current land commissioner, didn't have a chance. Same thing in the Harris County, for example. If you courted the more conservative sector of the party, you did well. And with respect to our candidate Vidal Martinez, and we had this conversation, he lost control of the message when Alex Mueller campaign pointed out that he had, as a businessman prior to him ever entering politics, contributed to a number of Democrats. That's a death knell. And I had that conversation with Vidal. And in a runoff, it's almost fatal. It doesn't even get you a chance to talk about your issues because everybody's concerned about, that you gave to Democrats. And I know people say that, President Trump gave to Hillary Clinton and several other Democrats, but Trump just, was a unique person. He sucked the oxygen out of the room. So the media never focused on, the paltry $1,500 contribution he gave to Hillary. They just talk about his bombastic behavior, and that dominated the news. Unfortunately, for Vidal that just it got away from him. And but we're very proud of Mano de Ayala, another not another conservative of Hispanic descent. Mano is a graduate of the University of Texas, but his parents came from Cuba, so we're very proud of him. But not because of his heritage. I'm proud of him because he is the typical child of an immigrant who works hard, gets an education in this country, makes a contribution to society, raises a family, pays his taxes, becomes a business leader, and then becomes a leader in society. And this is not only to the greatness of the immigrants and the opportunities that they have in America, but it is also, again, as I've always said, the greatness of America, that either those of us that are immigrants or children of immigrants have such tremendous opportunities in this country. So glad the election's behind us. Let's forget about all the sourness that occurred between, in Harris County and in other counties. It's time now to focus on November. It's time to get the conservatives back into office in Harris County, and it's time to keep Texas red. And so those are my comments. Thank you guys for having me on the show. Bobby, thanks for filling in for me.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to watching the rest of the program. But I'm gonna sign off and let you guys have it.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Orlando.
Orlando. Thank you so much. Have fun over there.
Yeah, it's interesting these elections. I mean, there's been Fort Bend County, Harris County. There was a lot going on, and to echo what Orlando said, really, and we saw it. The March primary, the school board elections just a couple weeks ago, and this runoff. It is going to bring out your base,
Correct.
right? And we even had campaigns in the past cycle that the same kind of thing. Earlier on, there were contributions to Democrats. Well, that's going to be an issue where if the constituency for that particular election is the base, and they're not going to want to see that, and that played its role in our elections too. But we're in great shape over in Fort Bend County. We had 8 contested races for precinct chair,
Wow.
which shows that people are energized. They want to get involved in leadership, even at the most grassroots
That's
level,
great.
to do their part to help the party. And our turnout was excellent, and I think we're going to be seeing good things come November.
As Orlando said, let's keep Texas red and conservatives. So we have 2 guests today because it's a lot of going on besides what happened yesterday, and that it affects our daily lives. So we have Morgan Cisneros Graham. She's state Republican Committeewoman, and she is with us today. And let me put my glasses because as you close to 50, it's hard to see.
Oh no!
And then we have our dear friend Arnold Gacita. He's the CEO of Petra Automotive Products, and we're going to talk today about Biden Hispanic approval rating, border crisis, gas prices, and inflation. These things every single day. I don't know what was the last time I put gas on my car. It was probably 4 or 5 days ago.
Yeah,
and I was like, I pay almost $100.
Yeah, it's outrageous. And now it's gotten to the point where yesterday I actually was texting a few people because I've been going all over the county for meetings and planning and all of this. And it was the first time where I really said, hey, can we maybe handle this on Zoom or just text each other? Because it's outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, Biden talks about, he's only going to raise tax on the wealthy. This inflation is a tax on everybody.
Everybody.
It is hitting everybody so hard. And yet he wants to blame the rich or the evil corporations.
Have you seen your electric bill lately?
Yeah.
Have you been in restaurants and you're paying like almost double the
It's
price
crazy.
on the ticket? And I just got a letter from my mortgage,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it went up $600 a month.
Oh wow.
I mean, everything is going crazy. How are we gonna do this? I mean, this is unsustainable.
Right. It's a lot to turn around. And remember, just last year, Joe Biden was saying, "Oh, yeah, I think this thing called inflation, it's just going to be a little bump. It's going to be a little blip, and then we'll be back to normal." Well, now we're here over a year later. It's just as bad. It's even worse. And what economists will say over and over again is that it's going to be around for a long time. We'll likely enter a recession. We've already had 1 quarter of negative growth. We add one more to it, we're in a full-blown recession. That's the Biden economy. That's the so-called Build Back Better. And it's why, as you alluded to in the polling, that he's doing terrible on every single issue.
Yeah, so he lost the rating approval on Hispanics, on genders, on socioeconomical at all levels,
Right.
and mostly Americans, the Anglos,
Yes.
and he only is been keeping his good approval rating with the African Americans.
Right.
And
That's the only one. That Quinnipiac poll is fascinating that just came out because, as you said, it's 26% approval rating among Hispanics. And if you look at all the different groups they looked at, whether age groups or race, religion, whatever, that was the lowest of all of them. So this voting block of Hispanics that Biden and the Democrats have taken for granted, you and I in Orlando, people that are involved in Texas Latino conservatives, we see it happening. We see what's going on at the border. People are coming over to the Republican Party. I think the Democrats must be in shock right now because it has taken them by storm, because they're bailing, the Hispanic community is bailing out from the Democrats, but in a major way. I mean, 26%, his worst approval of any group. They've got to be just hoping for a prayer that something else changes, because they're losing a block that will keep Texas red for generations.
And talking about the border, also the border crisis, it's unbelievable how the cities, the counties on the border are suffering. But this is like a domino effect to the rest of the cities in the states and the rest of the country. So let's bring our guests. I want to bring them both because I want them to comment to
Yes,
all
good
these issues that we're being talking with you, Bobby. So let's have Morgan Cisneros Graham. Welcome to TLC, and also Arnold Gacita. Welcome to TLC. Thank you so much for your time. We were supposed to bring you guys earlier, but this we need to talk about this school mass shooting. That is, I think both of you, are being also horrified with this going on in our state and our Uvalde city.
Absolutely.
So
I think that I think Orlando said it very, very, very good. We live in a sick society. Families, the nucleus of the family is broken, and we're seeing the ripple effects of it. We need to fix society. I mean, people's heart need to be mended and fixed. I don't think politics on either side are going to fix this. I think this is a deeper issue of families and their beliefs and what their priorities are. And I think somewhere down the line, the priorities changed. It used to be God, family, and then whatever else. And I think those priorities have changed, and now you're seeing the effects of it. But it's sad. It's devastating what happened.
Morgan.
Yeah, and what's really unfortunate is the fact that we have already the narrative being spun, just like with the Cummings shooting that occurred in Brownsville some years back, where we had a Hispanic student with a BB gun who was dispatched by law enforcement. The national media picked it up immediately, and the headline was Hispanic student, unarmed, but with BB gun, gunned down by police. And all of a sudden, the headline was dropped once they realized that there was no racial narrative, and we're over 90% Hispanic here, as well as our law enforcement. But we're already seeing a narrative being spun with regards to this, where they're comparing Ramos out of Uvalde to other shooters who, were not dispatched at the scene, were not shot, and making it into a racial issue. And so when all these narratives are being thrown in, unfortunately, it makes it so much harder to focus on the things that truly matter, such as the issues that we're all pointing out.
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump to the topic of the border crisis. because that's also why the Biden administration is getting a very lower approval on the Hispanic population. We know that at the border we have a high Latino population. You guys are been dealing with a lot, but this situation has been affecting other cities, like big cities like Houston, Austin, Dallas, and along the whole state. So let's start with you, Morgan, talking about the border crisis.
Absolutely. I'm getting calls from and of course emails and texts from more and more Republicans, but also new crossovers. Here, along the border, we as Hispanics are a very practical people, very pragmatic. Everything's not as emotionally fueled as we're seeing further away from this area with regards to this matter. Looking at some of the numbers in terms of crossovers, of course, the Rio Grande Valley has a disproportionately high number of those so-called border encounters. Even in January, we're looking at numbers as high as 138,000, as opposed to parts of the nation, other parts of the border, only having about 40,000. And so it's impacting us here far more than in other border areas nationwide. And we're seeing that definitely translating into how the voting populace is viewing the matter as well.
Arnold, how do
Yes.
you we're you're Hispanic too, like me. I'm from Colombia. I came to this country 1997, but I came with a visa, and you build a big business with your company, but seeing what is going on in the border is unsustainable, and it's affecting everything. Security, and it's affecting economy, it's affecting many things.
Absolutely. It's completely wrong, right? So you can't call it a border if it's not a border. If it's completely open and you're allowing everybody to come in and you're saying we'll deal with the problem later, there's many issues. There's an economic issue, social issues, crime issues, terrorist issues that we just saw last week where 5 terrorists were allowed in, and they're now trying to find for 4 of them. So there's always issues in the border, and Latinos care about the border. I'm Cuban. I'm married to a Mexican. You're Colombian. I know all types of Latins from all different countries. They all are concerned about the border. They have no problem with immigration, but they want immigration done correctly, like everybody else did. You fill a form out, you stand in line, you get checked, you get vetted, and you come to America. No Latino that I know of any type wants an open border where anybody can just come in and do chaos, because that causes problems in so many different areas. So I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing the Latinos move towards Republicans and away from the Democrats, is because they are typically family people with family with a character that's law and order. They don't want to be crazy. They don't want to do things illegally. They don't want to do. They just want to be living in peace. So when they see this happening, you're going to see a lot of them leave the Democratic Party. It's insane what's happening in the border.
And it's costing us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to get Morgan's thought on that too, because it's just interesting that the Democrats have counted on Hispanics for so long, and they've pushed these policies. We've seen this before under Barack Obama, and the surge, the crisis that we're seeing now is epic proportions. But it's been going on. So, what do you think personally, being down there, was the breaking point? Because now we see 26% approval among Hispanics, more and more voting Republican. What was the final straw there, do you think, that really got the wave going?
I think Democrats have taken our people for granted for so long. For example, we had 2 congressional races, CD 15 and 34, in 2020, where neither candidate even bothered to campaign, both of whom were Democrats, and both of whom now, or at least one of them, sorry, has an extremely strong opponent, and one of them just barely prevailed, just a point and a half apart. And of course, we have both Monica and Myra Flores here in
Mhm.
CD34 who are going at it
Mm-hmm.
and showing a level of commitment to our voters that we have not seen from the Democrats ever. And now the Democrats are nervous. They're definitely nervous locally, and we're starting to see resources getting poured in. So as Republicans, we need to make sure not only to match but surpass those, because we're still at a disadvantage. Here in Cameron, our voting base varies between 31 and 35%, and those are our Republican voting base.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really do rely on those right-wing Democrats as well as independent voters to get us above that 50% point. But the breaking point definitely has to do with the fact that we are very, like I said, practical, pragmatic people. The ability to feed our families, education, law enforcement, healthcare, so many other things that go into it. And when we talk about inflation, we also have to remember that government is not inflation proof. So as our costs do go up personally, as
Mhm.
individuals, as private
Mhm.
citizens, it's also going to go up for universities, for schools, for governmental entities. They too have to put, gas in their tanks when your utilities board is driving around. So all costs are going to be going up. And I think that we as a people understand that here we're far more logical when we approach a lot of the issues that drive us to the ballot box.
Yeah. Everybody is I mean, it's already costing us a lot of money.
Right.
We've been already seeing it. So Arnold, tell us about your thoughts as a business owner and how this situation is affecting business and affecting the community in general. Not only the border crisis, but the inflation we're paying. We're paying the price that it's unbelievable. I never saw this before in this country.
No, never in my life. I've never seen this before, and I think Morgan hit it as well in the talking about the border crisis and the Latinos going to Republicans. It's not just the border crisis, right? It's the inflation. It's not just the inflation. It's the social issues, right? Like most Latinos are Catholics or Protestants, so they come over and they're concerned about abortion. That's probably third or fourth on the list. But they're also concerned about these social issues. So you have border, you have inflation, everything costs more, they have less money in their pockets. So all this triggers that effect where you see the Latinos moving, not just the Latinos, but the independents are moving as well. So I think it's very bad news for Democrats. In business, it's one of the hardest times ever to run a business and maintain a profit, because every time you order raw materials, there's a price increase. Sometimes before you get the raw material, there's a price increase, and that's if you get the raw material. So not only do you have inflation, right? So an average of almost 9%, but you have raw material increase in cost. I've had probably an average of 22% cost of good increase in the first 5 months of this year, not counting the increases from last year. So you have 22% cost of goods increase. You have almost 9% inflation. And if you can find the raw materials to make the products that your customer wants, the labor now is also more expensive,
Oh yeah.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
my labor cost is about 30% higher. So just to give you a little scenario, we sell 18% more this year than we sold last year. Our cost of goods are increased by 22%, my expenses by 35%, and our profits are 50% below last year. Think
Wow.
about that. I'm selling 18% more than last year. All of these other numbers are high. I'm making less money than I did last year, right?
Right.
And we got
Wow.
to balance it, because my concern is at what point do we keep going up, right? I
Mm-hmm.
haven't had a price increase to my customers since January, but at some point I got to go up, right? But where is that ceiling? I mean, Bobby was saying, right? Okay, well, let's not have a meeting. Let's do a Zoom call.
Right.
Let's not turn the air conditioning on as cold as we used to.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
not
and
go out
Arnold,
to
you
eat two
you
times a
left
week.
out
Let's only do it once.
one little point right there too, in all the things that are going up. Biden's big solution to all of this is to raise your taxes, because you as a business owner are certainly not
Mhm.
paying enough taxes.
Yeah.
You add
Sure.
that to it, It's got to come down to be
from
funneled
a
down to
guy
the
that's
consumer
never,
eventually.
from a man that's never ran a business. So he
Right.
sits there
Yes. Right.
in the White House telling us that we're too profit oriented or have too much profit, and he has no idea what's going on in people's P&L. Yeah, there are companies out there making more money than probably they did last year because of supply and demand, and that's capitalism, right? If you know, talking about oil as an example, if he does not allow us to go get oil, then we have a limited supply of oil, and everybody needs it, so you're going to charge more, and there's going to be more profits in it. There's a way to fix that, right? Drill, drill, drill. Okay, and all of a sudden it becomes down. It's just supply and demand that he obviously and nobody in the administration understands.
Right.
But
No
it
clue
affects
at all. I mean,
Mm-mm.
every
no clue.
business is going to be hit with their costs, that are going up. It's going to be passed down to the consumer. So prices will rise. Well, guess what inflation is? Rising prices, less buying power. So all of what they're trying to do is just making it worse.
Of
And it's
course.
yeah, and no wonder he's suffering in the polls so bad.
And then
It will
it's
feel
so
like the
easy to
economy.
blame Ukraine
Right.
situation. It's so easy to blame the pandemic. So he's blaming.
Putin's the problem. He's the villain for everything,
Yeah,
according to Biden.
it's like
Right.
I don't understand. I mean, he's blaming everybody except his own
Himself.
administration.
Right.
But you know, nobody's buying it. Even the Democrats aren't buying it. Independents aren't buying it. The Latinos aren't buying it. That, you know, he can say that all he wants, but this was here before. There's a big issue, and this administration has lost touch. It's like when he was kind of laughing the other day, saying that this is just a problem we got to go through, and people have to pay high prices at the gas pump, and once we get through this, we'll be fine. I mean, there's no sympathy, there's no care. He doesn't get it that there's a guy out there making $40,000 a year that has to fill up his tank for $100 a tank. And their solution is always, electric cars, right? We can't afford an
Yeah.
electric
Exactly.
car today if he's filling up the tank with $100 in gas, right? And it takes electricity to build that electric car, and then it takes electricity to charge the electric car. These guys are so disconnected from reality; it's incredible.
Totally.
Right. Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, just as California keeps pushing electric cars, right? They want to get rid of everything else, and yet they have rolling blackouts every single hot season, every single summer. So pretty soon, people will not only not be able to air condition themselves or have power, they won't be able to charge their car.
I know.
So they won't be able to go to work.
I don't imagine what would we do last year
Right.
on the freeze storm
Uh-huh.
that we had no power for a week,
Right.
so we couldn't drive the car.
Right. Yeah. You couldn't have done that either. Exactly.
I
Because
don't-
they keep
I don't
pushing
know.
it. Morgan, really
If
quick,
everybody
you
had an
brought up
electric
one
car
point
and they
that.
plugged it in, we would
She's
be there.
okay.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
What
I'm just saying, if
you
everybody
were
had an
saying,
electric car,
Arnold? What you were saying?
if everybody had an electric car and they plugged it in tonight, we would be shut down. The grid would go down.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, they don't think about that.
Right. Right. Not
They
at
don't
all.
think about that.
Not at all. I mean, there's just so much going on that the left just.
I don't think we are ready.
Right.
I mean, probably slowly we can move to that, but we're not ready to have electrical cars and
No,
and to that green.
Right. And there's no point right now, too. I mean, they talk about, for decades now, they were talking about the oil's going to run out, like any year now, it's going to run out. And I recommend to anyone to just read Thomas Sowell's book on basic economics, and they will show you that there's plenty of oil out there right now that we just need to get to. We just need to drill. Some of it we don't get to because of the economy. It's not profitable. When it is, we'll go get it. But we have plenty out there right now. And Biden's lack of not only domestic policy, but foreign policy. The Saudis and people in the Middle East, they're not making it easy on us. They're driving up prices too, and he won't let us drill. And then he actually praised the high gas prices the other day as some kind of great, pain that we're going through to get to the green economy. And like green energy just kind of pops out of nowhere. There are actually protests in Portugal in a forest right now because it happens to be one of the biggest deposits of the minerals that are needed for rechargeable batteries. And so now you've got classic left wing. Do you get the rechargeable products or do you save the forest? And they're battling back and forth. So there's always a cost to developing or delivering anything, and the left just ignores that.
Correct. Oh, we have Graham back. That you were gonna ask her something.
Oh yeah, Morgan just had mentioned something that really goes into it. You know, the Hispanics have reached this last straw, right? And they're polling badly, and we're starting to take it to the Democrats. But there's also the other side, and that is we are actually fielding quality candidates. We actually have good people out there representing the area and running. And I just wanted to know if you could talk to that a little bit, some of the team that you're building out there, and how the voters are, you know, that middle ground is responding to this new breed of Republican.
Absolutely. You know, the infrastructure in the party alone has grown tremendously. For the first time, we've had contested precinct chair races in our county party, which is something we don't oftentimes see.
Mm-hmm.
There's much more interest, and there's also much more commitment that people have to get their hands into it and to also learn more. You know, in 2016, we did have a fairly good sized slate, but the difficulty that they faced, at least in Cameron, was generating that interest and also getting people to listen to their message. But now we're noticing that voters, even Democrats, are listening. Their ears are open, their minds are open. They're not happy with what they're currently seeing. And that's also happening here at the county level. One of the things that I've always believed, at least when it comes to driving turnout, is that when you have local candidates, even if they're running for federal office or what have you, it motivates people more to go out as opposed to, say, a statewide candidate who's not from the community. And so we're seeing a lot of that translating into increased interest, especially when we have such amazing, or what is being called the pink wave, such amazing, strong female candidates. We have Jamie Lopez, Myra Flores, who are really out there and have this excellent way of appealing to people. We also have a very strong county judge candidate who is the only Republican to win countywide office in Cameron since Reconstruction 3 times, and that's Carlos Gascos. He's on the ballot as well. And so when we have all of these strong contenders coming together, and you know, county commissioner candidates, JPs, when we have that really good foundational infrastructure, that speaks very, very well. You know, what we're going to be seeing more of, I believe, is Republican involvement in foundational races like school board and municipal levels. And once we have those foundational levels in county offices, that means that the Democrats will no longer control our elections, control the conduct of their elections. I'm also the county party chairwoman here in Cameron. And, you know, I'm actually the first Hispanic female county chair that we've ever had in Cameron. And so we're seeing also a demographic shift. We're noticing that when it comes to our county executive committee, it's going from being disproportionately of a more Anglo-centric makeup to being far more representative of the community, which is what we need. You know, and also just more resources coming down from state entities, from the party, from also state officials, because we're used to so many resources being siphoned from us. It's really hard for our candidates down here. You know, we have donors who will send tens of thousands of dollars out of our area monthly to state and federal officials, and none of it gets reinvested in us. And a dollar goes a lot further for a local candidate than, you know, or a local who's running for office than it would for, say, you know, the Abbott campaign or a senator's campaign. So we are seeing much more enthusiasm, much more excitement, but also much more receptiveness from the average, you know, voter, the average person. And we're also seeing folks coming out to vote who have never voted before. I actually just spoke with a woman who's 55 years old and has decided to get involved and vote for the first time.
That's awesome.
You know, better late than never.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
Well, Morgan, as a new county chairman, I'm looking forward to working with you. I think it's going to be a really great year. But part of what she said too, you know, that we see the excitement here in Fort Bend County, and people are getting involved. And in the county, Fort Bend is the most diverse county in the entire state, and we have a leadership team and precinct chairs that reflect that. And people see that in their community, and they say, well, man, we're seeing the left. You know, we see what Joe Biden's doing. What's the alternative? Well, now we're actually out there in the community showing them what we represent: strong families, safe communities, opportunity for all. These are messages that resonate with the middle ground, the people that will determine elections in Fort Bend County and places down in the valley in Cameron. And they're coming over our way. And that's just so great to see.
Oh, yeah.
Now we need to do the job of continuing to engage them and bring them in.
Engage them and
Oh, yeah, that
educating
affirmative.
them. I think it's very important to keep educating our community, because I think it's a lot of first of all, the media is doing a horrible job educating our community when it comes to elections, politics, and everything that matters to us, because that's what affects our daily life. They're doing a horrible job. So we need to, as you guys are leaders in the community, and us, that we can send a message, we need to keep up going and sending the message to people, educating them, and highlight the importance of participate in the elections and voting. Before we used to say, I remember my time at university, and I was like, the Hispanics don't go and vote.
Right.
Now we're seeing
Right.
them
Right.
voting more. Not only the new generations are more aware that they need to participate, but I think the new immigrants that becoming a U.S. citizen like me, that also more aware that we need to vote and participate, because that's the only way that we can change things. Because if we want to complain, we complain because we want to vote. If we don't do that,
Exactly.
how are we going to complain?
And as Morgan said, the importance of these local elections. All right, so now people are getting engaged. They don't just want to complain; they want change. Well,
Correct.
if you're tired of the indoctrination and what's going on in the schools, well, guess what? That's not Congress. That's school board races.
Yeah.
And so get involved in there. You want to change, you care about election integrity, you want to change that, get involved in the county level. There are so many races that make a huge impact. And those are the people where we need volunteers and great candidates. And that's where we're starting to see. We saw it this 2 weeks ago with the school board races across the state. People are coming over our way because we deliver common sense and wanting to put power back in the hands of parents and not left-wing activists.
Yeah. Another thing that I want to address with Arnold as a business, I've been seeing, and it's so sad. I have a friend that he just bought, for example, a BMW, and like 2 weeks later, his tire got a nail, and then he need to replace the tire. So they told him, we don't know, it's out of stock. We don't know when we're gonna get a tire.
wow.
So he's not able to drive the car. And also it's a lack of employees. And I've been seeing all industries, not just the restaurants industry, all industry. We don't have a staff. We don't have people. We don't have materials. Construction. Like, what is going on? And the blame is always on the pandemic. I mean,
Yeah, I know. I think I get tired of people blaming the pandemic, right? And it obviously wasn't the Ukraine war. We were at a restaurant the other day, and the service was taking a long time, and the manager came out and said, "Look, we apologize, but 50% of our staff did not show up today."
yeah,
I don't know how these people are making a living. We're trying to hire as well, and it's very difficult. We will set up 30 or 40 appointments, interviews, maybe half show up. If you offer one a job, they may come back and say, "No, I really don't want it." So I don't know if there's a cash society going on out there or how these people are making a living, but the problem is that. So plants that make product, let's just say tires, using your friend's example, these plants, when the pandemic, when the COVID happened, some of those were shut down, if not all. You can't just turn a switch and turn these plants back on. Refineries, oil, production, polymers, you just can't turn them on that quick. They should be on by now, but it takes a while to turn on. What happened is that staff, the people with that experience, left and went elsewhere or exited the workforce. Maybe they were 50 years old, 60. They decided, you know what, I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. So some plants are still not open. They can't open. There's actually 2 plants here in Deer Park that, due to the freeze, have not opened. But they're still trying to get repairs. The repairs are taking longer because there's nobody to repair it, and the parts for the repair are taking longer to get. Well, all of that snowballs into, I have no tires. I'm not going to get the tires for 6 months. Or you place an order today and it's just not going to come in.
Yeah.
Things that there are incentives that we can do to open these plants back up and help businesses get people back in. But again, the government solution to everything is look the other way, pay these high prices, buy an electric car, and everything's going to be fine. But it's a real problem. It's a real problem. And a lot of stuff wasn't done in the U.S., like cars. If you were buying a car, the car shortage, the chips were all made outside the U.S. Now they're finally making some factories inside, but it's going to take a while to get caught up. There's one particular Toyota vehicle that if you order it today, you're not getting it until 2024 because of the
Wow.
chip shortage,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
So we people just didn't plan this out. We just said shut America down, send people home, give them money, and now we're trying to pick up all these pieces, and you just can't.
This is unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah, the state of the economy right now, and you
I feel like
mentioned
living
COVID.
in a third world country.
Yeah, I know it, and that's what I think.
Not
I
even
mean,
formula for babies.
right. We have to ship that. We have to ship that in. We're
Yeah.
getting that shipped in. We're getting foreign aid in the United States of America. And that just is unbelievable that it happened right now. They were so slow to react with the baby formula shortage, and we see this over and over again. Biden likes to tout that he's creating all of these jobs, and yet they're just jobs returning from COVID. And yet, the last stat I saw showed our labor participation is the lowest since the 1970s.
Yeah.
So people aren't coming back to work, and that's why you have all these people who are so over COVID. They want to go out. They go to a restaurant, and I know you've seen this. You walk in, and half the restaurant's empty, and they tell you it's a 40-minute wait.
Yeah.
Because they only have the staff to cover like half the restaurant.
Correct.
There's something that's just not right in this country right now.
Totally.
And people can feel it. They can see it. They're paying more. They're doing less. And that's why I think November comes around. It's going to be a big change.
We need to do a big change. So we're running out of time now, guys. I want as a call, I call the call to action. What will be the message to all of these topics and the situation that we're living in this country? Let's start with you, Morgan.
Well, first of all, it would be definitely to not fall for the narrative that's being pushed, blaming capitalism for these shortages, when we know a lot of it was government induced. Just about every problem that we're having has some sort of correlation to something that government has done. And our values as Republicans, our institution, the Republican Party, whether it be Texas or our national party, the values that we espouse are things that would absolutely, if we were governing with those consistently, would have prevented a lot of what we're dealing with today. And just remember that coming up on November. And for fellow Republicans, those of you who are trying to, educate voters, engaging in outreach, referring back to something Bobby said, that affirmative message, what it is we're for, as opposed to things we're against. Those are things that definitely do appeal to voters far more than focusing on just the failures of our opponents.
Arnold?
Yeah, to add to that, I think the message we need to give Latinos, if we're talking particularly about Latinos, is the Republican Party is a party of family. It's a party of integrity. The Latinos want to have the opportunity to work and live the American dream. This is the party for that. The Latinos also are, like I mentioned before, they're usually faith-based people. They're not progressive social thinking people, right? They believe still in principles and Bible and God. And so I think our message needs to be that the Republican Party is not the crazy party. It's the party that's going to give you the opportunity for you to go out and work hard and do something in America. Not the party about handout, but the party about opportunity. It's also the party that conserves your family rights.
Great. And tell us about your website and if people want to reach out to you and your products.
Yeah, absolutely. Our website is petraautomotiveproducts.com. Please come in, take a look at us. We are really a professional industry. So we sell to professional installers and they in turn sell to the consumers. So dealerships around Houston, if you walk into a dealership, you need service on your vehicle, ask them if they're using Petra. If they're not, tell them to get Petra.
Okay. Great. Well, Arnold, muchas gracias por habernos acompañado.
De nada. Gracias por tenerme.
Morgan, thank you so much for your time too.
No, thank you kindly for the invitation. You take care.
Wow,
Thanks.
well, a lot of things going on, and thank you, Bobby.
Sure thing.
Thank you, Bobby, for your time.
Yeah,
Uh,
I love being here. It's a lot of fun.
I know. And thank you, everybody, for being with us, and our prayers with the families and the victims in the Uvalde mass school shooting. Um, my heart is still, I mean, I can't believe that this is still going on in this country. And I wish this is not become like, oh, it's another one.
Right.
And it's another one, like a normal, because this is nothing normal about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you next Wednesday. And please visit us in TexasLatinoConservatives.com, TexasLatinoConservatives.com. Become a member. Help us to help. Nos vemos el próximo miércoles.